So hello and welcome to all of you. And Derek, if you can chuck on your panel, it'd be wonderful to have you live here with us. And thanks very much for putting this on. I'm super excited tonight to be sharing with you and sharing the stage with you to share with other farmers around what it is that they can do with regards to diversification. So I'd like to kind of get started. And the question that we're going to go through tonight is, what is diversification? How do you build a globally diversified passive income? How do you protect your wealth and what you've built? And also, how do you grow your portfolio in terms of that process? So, Derek, you said there's a big storm coming from the farm. So, how are things on the ground there where you are?
Yeah, no, it is. We are getting a bit of rain. It's not all that bad enough to knock the Eskimo out. So we're on the generator at the moment. So, but yeah, luckily we have the generator, and thanks to load shedding, we prepared for this now.
Yeah, well, we've got huge winds here as well, so it looks like the South African weather is playing games with us all. But welcome to everyone tonight. It's always an awesome experience. Something that I'm really grateful for, Derek, is the time that you put into this, the energy you put into this. And I think before we get started, the question I'd like to ask you for your fellow colleagues that are here is, it's a journey you and I have walked together now for the best part of 2 years. Funny enough, it was October 2022 when we first sort of met. And I'd like to kind of just ask you the question, why is it important what we are discussing tonight? And obviously we're going to kind of pivot into some of the details and we're going to kind of go through it together. But before we get started, I think it's important for those that have joined us tonight. Why is it important and what can they expect out of this?
So Scott, I think, you call it a journey, which it most certainly is. And it started at a point where I was very aware that I needed to do something different in my business. I need to find different income streams in order to be more secure in my business. And I listened to a webinar that you hosted specifically on diversification. I had just bought a property, an investment property in Potchefstroom. And when I listened to you, I kind of not second guessed myself, but I looked at the investment and what I was doing with different eyes. And I had different understanding. And that's when I decided to invest the time and the bit of money in joining the Mastermind and actually getting to understand very nicely, very well how it works and how you can successfully build a diversified alternative or passive income stream or alternate income stream. For me as a farmer, we completely used to diversification. We diversify our businesses all the time. But when you diversify within agriculture, you still remain linked to the weather. This now takes a diversity. You're diversifying an income stream that has nothing to do with the weather. And when you do it globally, the exchange rate also gives you a massive benefit of 17.5 to 1 at the moment. On euros, it's 19 or something to 1. And then what was amazing to me was the simplicity of the system. Like within literally minutes, you can get yourself signed up, linked up, and I learned over time. This is the benefit of being in the Mastermind: is you get to understand how the system works and all the compliance, all the things that would worry you about investing, and particularly investing online. You get to see how that's all put in place. You get comfort with it, and once you start investing, once you start seeing the income flow into your account, then things really get real. So yeah, Scott, I was in I don't want to say a bad place. I was in a difficult spot in my business. I needed to find a different income stream. I needed to do something differently, and this is working for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Derek. And I think I'd just be interested to, if you want to just type in the chat box, it's always interesting to know where different people are coming from. So I'm coming live from Knysna, just outside well, in the Western Cape in terms of where it is. I've lived overseas. I've done my time in London, etc. I lived there for 9 years, but I actually choose to live back in South Africa. But I consider myself a global citizen. I've just got back after spending 3 weeks in America, etc. So I'd love to know kind of where people are from and what they're thinking. And I'd also love to know what you would like to achieve out of this evening. So my recommendation is that, with your permission, Derek, is that I'm going to kind of give a bit of an essence, just in kind of an overview of kind of who we are, where we come from, and then you and I can dialogue a little bit. We can talk to some of the points you've spoken to in terms of investing and how the platform works, what type of investments they are, like how the returns work, and we can kind of, explain it a little bit more. My strong invitation for people is just, type in the chat box, let us know if you've got any questions or anything that we can help with. Because for me, what's very, very important is that we answer people's questions. We explain to them how this works so that they can have a level of peace and understanding of what it is and how it's all put together. So without further ado, I wanted to kind of run through. I do have a full presentation, and I'm not going to go into that full presentation today because I do fundamentally believe that sort of anyone can do a presentation. What I'd prefer, and I think is of much more value for you, is with Derek and I here, is actually having a conversation, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you an intro, and then what we'll basically do from there is that if you want the full presentation, I can share it with you and you can watch it. But for now, what I want to basically do is take you through a bit of an intro so that you can understand. So the first thing that I want to share with you is that we're going to be running through some of the lessons that I've learned from helping some of the wealthiest people around the world invest, all over the world. So the first question would be, what would it mean to you in 12 months or less to be earning at least $5,000 in passive income without any hassle or complexity? So again, you can type in the chat box, you can think it through in terms of the process, but what would it mean to you? Derek mentioned, what it means to him in terms of being able to earn passive income, but what does it mean to you? And you might notice I do this on purpose to try and engage with people and to engage your brains in terms of, what you think of this process. The second question I would have is, how would you like a system which will statistically help you get there 5 times faster, simpler, and safer? Now, I know that you think that this might sound too good to be true. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. What we're talking about here can take 5, 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. So there's no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme, in my opinion. But what there is that if you're dealing with a family office, and if a family office is helping the top 1% invest, and the top 1% are getting better results than other people, if you copy what they're doing, and better still, if you partner with them, the chances are that you're going to get the same results that they're going to get, which will enable you to get there 5 times quicker, simpler, and safer than what you're currently doing. And I'll prove it to you. There's actually research out from Harvard in terms of what I'm actually showing. So I wanted to kind of share 2 examples of what I'm talking about. So the first one is Jordan. Jordan is a high net worth 55-year-old, worked very hard in his life, wants to build a portfolio to ensure his wealth is preserved. When he joined us, he wanted to build a globally diversified passive income of $5,000, $10,000, and then $25,000, simply and safely. He wanted to diversify his investments between countries, currencies, and assets. He wanted to use his limited time to get effective results with predictability. He wanted to save decades of frustration and millions of dollars to get the right knowledge for him and his family. He wanted wealth protection, a plan B, and peace of mind. He wanted to be held accountable with an accountability partner to get results. He wanted to have a family office to help him manage all of his financial affairs. He wanted to create generational wealth for his family. He wanted to have a fully completed executable wealth plan and investor strategy sheet, and he wanted to get results. So, do you resonate with Jordan? Would these resonate or symbolize or assimilate with what your needs and wants would be? What about Victoria, an entrepreneur in her 50s, devoted to family and business, aiming to build generational wealth? She had a packed schedule, and so she wanted a streamlined investment strategy. Time, she didn't have a lot of time. She wanted to be empowered to make wise decisions, aligning with her goals and freeing up her time to be with her grandchildren and daughters. She wanted to understand the investment landscape so she feels empowered. A lot of what Derek and I talk about is this, for a long time, this feeling of feeling disempowered and actually now feeling empowered to be able to make the right decisions for herself and her family. And then the focus on achieving financial freedom to cherish more moments with her loved ones. We call this diversification. And we believe that, truly what inspires us and what we're passionate about is helping others to be able to achieve it through diversification. So as a matter of interest, if you want to kind of do what we call a next steps navigator, you can literally go to this link and it'll ask you a number of questions to actually help you make the right decisions in terms of from an investment perspective. But I want to start with a story, and it's quite an important story. There were two brothers and they were in Zimbabwe. And funny enough, they came from a farming family. The one brother in 1976 decided it was time to leave Zimbabwe. There was too much political chaos. We had the war and everything else. And so they packed everything into a car. It was a Morris Minor, or Renault actually, sorry. And they literally drove from Zimbabwe down to Durban. And the problem with this brother was that they reacted to whatever was happening. They were a cork on the ocean. They had to deal with the political environment. They had to deal with the economic and social environment. And everything they did in their life was from a reactionary perspective. The other brother in 1980 decided to stay in Zimbabwe, but to still invest overseas. Started investing in first world assets, earning a first world income. And in 2003, literally decided that they wanted to move to Australia. It's quite hard to get into Australia over the age of 50, but they bought their way into Australia at the age of 53. They bought a house for cash in Brisbane. They sent their kid to a private school, and he went on to row at some of the top universities in the world. And most importantly, he didn't have to work for an Australian. I say this with a smile on my face, but the bottom line is most people work all their lives, and you don't want to have to go from being a general to being a foot soldier. And so the question I have for you is, which brother do you want to be? Do you want to be the reactionary brother that's the cork on the ocean that kind of has to react to what's ever happening in the political, economic, social environment? Or do you want to be the proactive brother that has the ability to make the choices for them and their family? And again, I'd love it if you just type it in the chat box there and let me know what you think. Do you want to be the proactive or the reactive brother in terms of this procedure? Now, from my experience, the majority of people want to be the proactive. And I got to experience this personally. My father was actually the reactive brother. So this is a picture of me and him on my very first property project. I was 13 years old. And what was interesting is my dad did what we all taught to do. He went to school, he went to university, he got a degree. By the way, he actually got an agri degree. He was at Maritzburg Varsity in South Africa. And what was interesting is that he went on, he then got a further degree to become a chartered accountant. He went on to being financial director of Rainbow Chickens. And what was interesting is that he invested, he trusted the financial industry. But when my father died at the age of 59, he died broke. And I decided at a very young age that made no sense to me. I was not going to work hard, go to university, get a good job, invest with the financial industry, and die broke. And when I went and did the research from a gentleman called Dr. Hanestraya, I actually found out that 94% of people will be the same as my father at the age of 65. They'll either be dead, broke, or reliant on the government. 5% of people will be what's called financially independent. And again, when I ask people, I say, hey, who here wants to be financially independent? And most people put up their hand. The problem is that what it actually means is you earn 25% less than your last paycheck. And so you're actually 25% poorer at the age of 65, which I would just call financially trapped. And so literally one person out of 100, so 100 of us start a race, one person is actually finishing the race. And I decided at a very young age, that was just wrong. I was going to do it differently. And so I went out and I read loads of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Real Estate Riches, you name them. We've all heard about the cash flow quadrant, the E, the S, the B, and the I, the employee, the self-employed, the business owner, and the investor. And again, without going into too much detail here, this side, the employee and the self-employed, is all about active income. Whether it's, about getting out there on the farms and making stuff work, or a doctor in surgery, or, even a small business owner. And 95% of the world's population live in this side, and they own about 5% of the world's wealth. And this is all about active income. But the right-hand side is all about passive income. It's about being a business owner and an investor. And they own 95% of the world's wealth. And the question is, how do you focus on this part where your money is working for you while you're sleeping? And ideally, your money is working for you around the world while you're sleeping. And that's where I came across the first myth, because I thought that I had to do it all myself. I went out and I read all the books. I went on all the courses. I did all the mentoring. For 14 years, I did this. I've got an honors degree, cum laude, in construction management and technology. I've got a master's degree, cum laude, in construction technology. I've got the top property courses out of America, England, and South Africa. And you name it, I went and did it. And I kind of thought that I had to do all the work on my own to figure it out. I went out and bought 16 houses. And I thought, right, now I'll be free. But what I realized was that I just got more hassle in my life. And so let's take a couple of steps back. And I want to share with you how this can add value to you. The first project that I showed you, I did when I was 13. So this was me on that building site that I showed you when I was 13 years old. I did my first property development when I was 22 years old in Rondebosch in Cape Town. I did my first London property when I was 24. And I started a company called International Property Solutions to help people invest in South African property. I helped thousands of people invest in South African property. I helped hundreds invest in UK property. I helped hundreds invest in Australian property. And I helped hundreds invest in American property. But what I realized was there was a fundamental block, because people were stuck. It took a huge amount of money and complexity even to do an investment in the country. If you wanted to go into commercial property, or if you wanted to go into international property, it required a huge amount of money. And that didn't even take into account the tax, the structuring, and the compliance. And then in 2009, there was this opportunity. It was in a place called Wimbledon, where the tennis is in London. And there were 48 units. So we'd had the crash in England, and there was a significant opportunity. The developers were in trouble. And I went along to my 2,500 investors, and I said, guys, this is a real opportunity. And you can literally see what I wrote here. It was a 40% discount, an 8% yield, which is 8% income. It was cash flow positive. We were literally buying the buildings for nearly half what it cost them to build it. And I said down the bottom here, I don't care what happens with the market values in the short term. This represents a real opportunity. I tried to get our investors to work together. We had to buy all 48 units together. We needed 10 million pounds. And I just couldn't get people to work together. And we lost that opportunity. A year later, I was in Bondi Beach, Sydney. I met two very wealthy gentlemen from Pretoria. And I said, what are you investing in? They said, medical buildings. And I said, why medical? They said, well, no matter what happens in the world economy, people need doctors. I was like, that makes sense. Secondly, doctors never leave their premises. I was like, yep, that too makes sense. And thirdly, doctors are very good at being doctors, but they don't make great accountants. So they sign good, long, favorable leases. And I remember thinking to myself, this is an absolute no-brainer. Like, I've done all these degrees. Why has no one ever taught me this? And I said, again, how do I participate? And I needed $5 million. Again, I ran around to all my investors, and I couldn't get people to participate. And it created enough pain that I actually built Wealth Migrate with the whole idea of helping people come together so that we could invest in better quality assets by using technology. We did our first deal in 2014. So we did a commercial deal, 6 medical buildings in Atlanta in America. It was a $16 million deal. We raised $6 million in capital, and we were right to the races. Like, literally, that was 10 years ago. And what was so interesting for me is that when I started investing in that commercial property, I realized that I was getting high return with low hassle. So high return with low hassle. And my residential portfolio was high in hassle, low in return. High in hassle, low in return. So I always say to people, do you want high in return, low in hassle? Or do you want high in hassle, low in return? And ever since we did that first project, We've now gone out, we've helped people in 178 countries. We facilitated $1.3 billion in investments. We paid out over $31 million in dividends and distributions. And so whether people want to invest in America, England, Europe, Australia, or even South Africa, they no longer need to choose. And when I ask people why they want to diversify, having helped thousands of people from all over the world, there's a couple of core themes that always come up. The first is they want to protect their wealth. They've worked hard for their money and they want to protect it. The second is they want a plan B. You talk a lot about the weather, Derek, but they don't want to be tied up with one specific opportunity. They want to be able to have a plan B, that if plan A doesn't go according to plan, they've got plan B, possibly C or D. They want to have peace of mind. They don't want to have the stress of whether or not it's working. And finally, they want to have the freedom. I talk a lot about the freedom of choice. Where do you live in the world? Where do you send your kids to school? Where do you send your kids to university? Who do you work for? These are all freedom choices. Who do you donate your money to? I don't care who you do and what choices you do, but what I do care a lot about is you having that freedom of choice. So we live in interesting times. You know, we've had the war in Ukraine. We've got inflation at all-time highs. We've got interest rates having risen. We've got fuel prices going through the roof. We've got the stock market at all-time highs. We've had load shedding. We've had the Israeli conflict. We've had all the shenanigans going on in America. We've had Labour winning a landslide in England. We've had the GNU in South Africa. We've had Biden quitting the race. It just keeps on going on and on and on. And so we talk a lot about diversification. And to some extent, Derek already alluded to this, because there's actually a formula that came out from a gentleman called Ray Dalio. Now, Ray Dalio manages $160 billion, and I would highly recommend that you go and actually research who Ray Dalio is. But in simple terms, he's achieved a return of 21% a year on average for 40 years. So that's pretty impressive, 21% a year on average for 40 years. And he says the single most important thing for investors to know and to do is to diversify. You have to diversify across countries, currencies, and assets. And we've added to that partners and time. It's all about building globally diversified passive income. Now, Derek's kindly invited you to this, and I've been doing this, as I said to you, for 20 years. And there's pictures and presentations of me all over the world. And the one thing that I find interesting is that people often hear this and they say, yep, maybe I should do something about it. But they don't actually do anything. And, for me, it happens to me all the time. It happened to me again this afternoon, where someone comes to me and says, Scott, I've been watching you for 10 years. I wish I'd done something 10 years ago. And I happen to remind that person that when we were investing in America 10 years ago, the rand was 8 Rand 60 to the dollar. So Derek, you talk about 17 and a half. It was 8 Rand 60. If they'd listened and taken action 10 years ago, the rand to dollar was 8 Rand 60. So whether it's the big events, whether it's the small events, sitting on panels, taking people away to game reserves and kind of more private functions, presenting with Clem Sunter and Neil Peterson, Dr. Dolph DeRoos, all of the time I've been trying to share with people what I've learned over the last 20 years in terms of investing internationally and diversification. But the key thing here, which is important, is that according to Harvard, 3 months from now, if you don't take action, if you don't actually start investing, the chances are that you will retain less than 10% of what we're talking about tonight. Whereas if you actually get involved and you start learning while doing, the chances are you'll retain 95%. It really is quite significant in terms of this proposal. And then finally, the last thing that I wanted to share with you is that, there's also the pain of not taking action from a financial perspective in terms of return on investment. And I met a gentleman, and he was from South Africa. He was in Cape Town, and he had his money with Alan Gray, and he was earning an average of about 7%. And I said, well, you could be achieving anywhere from kind of 14 to 15% on average in dollars. And we've got a track record of over 10 years of doing that. And I showed him that, by not doing anything, by leaving his money earning 7%, over a 10-year period, it was costing him over $50,000 in terms of his actual, in today's money. So, in future money, in 10 years' time money, it's $100,000. But in today's money, it was $57,000. And I always say to people, if you're looking at pure return on investment, it becomes really important to understand how, what you're learning, what you're listening to tonight, and the pain of not actually taking the action. And the last thing I'd say to you is that we've been doing this for a long time. And 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted to invest in America, you'd come on an airplane with me. 10 of us would fly over there. We'd look at property, we'd meet the partners, and we'd invest. 2 years ago, we evolved that into a mastermind where we've got this incredible group of people, 74 of us from around the world, everywhere from America to England, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Zambia, and Swaziland. A mixture between men and women. And what it is a group of like-minded people that are getting together. And in simple terms, it's about investing, diversification, building globally diversified passive income, and most importantly, getting results. Now, the rest of this presentation, I can share the recording and I can share it with Derek and he can share it with people. But in simple terms, there are 5 key things that people should be looking at when it comes to these times at the moment, which have a lot of uncertainty. The first is trends. You need to know the trends. I literally wrote a book here, which was endorsed by Clem Sunter. He's the person that wrote Think and Grow Rich and The Mind of the Fox, etc. And I talk a lot about the trends. When you're investing, don't use your gut feel. Use fundamentals, use systems, and use facts to be able to make the right decision. The second one is risk. How do you actually manage risk? The third one is diversification. What are all the keys to diversification? The fourth one is structuring. How do you ensure that your structures are right from a tax perspective so that you're tax efficient? And the fifth one is team. Who is your team? If you're going to invest in England, America, Europe, how are you going to do it? Who is your team? How are you going to find good opportunities on the ground? How are you going to make sure that these have good due diligence from a safety perspective? And how are you going to manage it all in one place? And so again, I can share the rest of that presentation with everyone so that you can watch it. But what I wanted to do was to pivot more to what you were talking about, Derek, because your time and is valuable. And it's far better for us to kind of have a dialogue and a conversation than it is to kind of just me give a presentation, because I can share the recording with people. So what I'd like to kind of start with, Derek, is a demonstration of what you were talking about earlier, which is how it actually works to give people some peace of mind in terms of, the actual investment. So if I share with you quickly, I just want to share a slide with everyone to show you visually what I'm going to do. And then I literally physically want to actually show you the investment. So in simple terms, if I diagrammatically show you, just give me 2 seconds, let me find you the right slide. So here it is here. So what we've basically done is we've built this technology so you should be seeing my screen here. And this is your bank account. So this might be your local bank account, it might be your offshore bank account. But what we do is we help you set up with an investor wallet. So every single person has their own wallet. So I have a wallet, Derek has a wallet, Thomas has a wallet, Sue has a wallet, every person has a wallet. They then go to the marketplace. I'll show you how this works. They look at the different investment opportunities. They then decide to invest in an investment. And what the platform does is it aggregates the investors together. So it brings our money together into one place. It then goes through a tax-efficient structure, and we invest directly in the deal. And then when that deal makes money, whether it's income or capital growth, then that money comes back, it goes into a deal wallet, and from that deal wallet, it goes directly into your wallet. And then you can do with that money whatever you want. You can either reinvest that money, or you can put it back in your own personal bank account, and you can go on holiday to Disney World. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go right from the outside. So I can literally go to wealthmigrate.com. I know that Derek and I are really excited about the collaboration we're doing. And in time, we're actually going to have our very own platform for Farmers Wealth Solutions, where, you'll be able to go to your own platform that'll just be for farmers. And it'll look fairly similar to this. So the first thing is that I've got my wallet here and I'm in complete control of my money. I can do it in my own name. I can do it in an offshore structure, company or trust. But let's say that I want to go along and I want to basically look at the deals. So at the moment, there's a deal in England. So this is a private equity opportunity in London. It's a total return of 25% a year, target return, with an income of 4.5% per year. There's a debt opportunity in Austin, America. It's just an income opportunity, so it's not a capital growth opportunity. And you can see here that the income return is just short of 9%, so 8.75%. By the way, all of these returns are net. So this is exactly what you get in your pocket. Then there's an opportunity in Phoenix, in America. And literally, it's an industrial commercial opportunity. It's got a total return of about 16% a year. And it's got a cash-on-cash return of about 6%, just over 6% income per year. And then finally, there's a mixed-use opportunity in Germany. And you've got the opportunity to invest in Germany in euros. And again, a total return of about 16% with an income return of just short of 7%, so 6.99%. So let me just, as an example, pick the industrial building in Phoenix. Now, you can go and watch the video. You can watch the webinars. You can see the pictures here. I must admit, 10 years ago, I didn't think that I'd be investing in buildings like this in Phoenix. It's one of the top 3 cities in America with regards to commercial, industrial, and logistics. You can go and look over here. You can see the opportunity. You can see the total return in terms of who the partner is, and you can read all about it. You can look at the risk. You can go down here. You can put your amount you want to invest in. So I don't know, maybe it's 27,893. So it's a completely automated calculator. It'll tell you exactly what the fees are, exactly what your net returns are. So green is in your pocket. And you can see that if you invest, let's just keep it simple for now, $10,000. Over the life cycle of the investment, you're going to get $20,822 out of this deal. You can download the documentation. You can see the investment record. You can read the risks, etc. So you can go all about it. But say, for example, I want to go in now and I want to invest in this deal. I literally can invest from $10. I go continue. I digitally sign the agreement. I go, I agree, and I go make investment. And this is exactly what Derek was talking about. If I go back and I go view my portfolio, you've just seen me invest in Phoenix from $10, and the whole thing took me about 30 seconds. Now, if I go back to the marketplace, that was Phoenix. What about Germany? Maybe I should diversify. So let me go into a mixed use opportunity in Germany, in Europe. And I go in, it's got the same sort of look and feel, but now I go to investment and I go invest in this deal. And I go continue, I digitally sign the agreement, and I literally go agree and I go make investment. And once again, you've seen me make the investment in under 30 seconds. And then finally, maybe I should have a bit of London, because now I've got America, I've got Europe, maybe I should have a bit of UK. So I go in, again, I can kind of look through it all. I go invest in this deal. I literally digitally sign the agreement. And once again, you've seen me invest into England. So if you look at my investment now, I've invested in Phoenix, America, I've invested in Germany, and I've invested in London, England. You can see, so that's my pending opportunities. You can see my funded investments in terms of what I'm looking at. And then you can also go in and you can look at my wallet, and you can basically see in my wallet. So just my wallet, I can withdraw my cash, I can deposit my cash, I'm in complete control of my money, and I can go and see all of my different income that is being paid into my wallet through the different times. So I just wanted to stop there quickly. But what I was just sharing, Derek, was, 10 years ago, again, people used to have to come on a plane with me. We'd fly overseas. We'd set up structures. We'd invest in the property. We had to have to buy the property, manage the property, fix the broken toilets. Nowadays, using technology, we invest directly alongside institutional partners. They do and manage the deal on the ground. We invest alongside them, and it gives us the opportunity to participate. So I don't know. I know Derek's having a problem with the storm. Have we lost you there, Derek? It looks like I asked him as we lost him. Any questions from anyone?
Scott, are you there?
Yeah, I've got you.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, I've got you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Scott, I remember so well the first night I listened to you, and I'm sure
Derek, it's breaking up quite badly. Maybe try to switch your camera off.
for our participants, I would like a bit of perspective. Let me try without the camera.
Yeah, I think so.
Is it better now? Is the link sound
Yeah, we
better?
can hear you much more clearly now. Yeah.
All right, good. So I want to try and put it into a bit of perspective. So you started speaking about the myths of investing, and then you've gone ahead and you've explained 10 years ago what it took for you and your clients to actually make an investment overseas. What has Wealth Migrate actually done? You've actually built a platform where you can aggregate that. You can take much smaller investments, and with the same due diligence, or even better due diligence for that matter, with the same regulatory, in fact, stronger regulatory environment, you've simplified the investing, and you've kind of like crowdfunded it. It's something in South Africa. We have a similar thing called easy equities or easy properties. Similar sort of thing. The main difference is, we have access to a variety of different asset classes. We have access to a variety of different assets, different countries, and time. The diversification model that Scott was explaining. What I learned over time participating in the Mastermind was to gain comfort in the system, in the process, and it works, and why it works.
Derek, we're losing you a little bit. Yeah, Derek.
Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, Scott.
I can hear you now. Sorry, we lost you for the last 30 seconds. Yeah. I can hear you now.
So the breakthrough for me came when I, right, you're hearing fine?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So the breakthrough for me came when I actually set up the wallet, and I took as little as $150, and I split it up into three $50 investments, and I put little $50 in one, $50 in the next one, $50 in the third one. And after the first quarter, everything started working, and the income started flowing back into my wallet, and I could take that income and reinvest it. And it's just really so simple, and it actually works. So you know, the main thing, Scott, the difference is, before the Wealth Migrate platform, you had to physically go to America or Europe, go and set up the company or the structure, go and buy the property, and you needed to be the investor. So you needed a lot of money. You needed a lot of money to actually do it logistically. Whereas now with the Wealth Migrate platform, it's literally a click of the button away. So I just wanted to give that perspective, Scott.
No, awesome. Thank you very much. And Michael, you've asked a great question, which I want to answer for you before I move to the next section. So Michael asked a question here: how is the percentage return decided? So if I just share my screen here and I go back here to the deals, Michael, each deal is calculated based on the actual returns of that deal, and it's the net. So if you look here, this is the net return after any fees, etc. So it's literally what's paid into your pocket. So if I look at your question where you said, how is the percentage return decided? It's quite simple. It takes the total return, it minuses off the fees, and it ultimately gives you your net return, so that you know exactly kind of what you're getting in your pocket. So please just let me know, Michael, if that answers your question. There is actually a breakdown. So as an example, if you go into any one of these deals and you download the fact sheet, it'll just download quickly. You can see it's downloading here up on my screen here. I'm just literally doing it live for you. And I open the fact sheet. You can actually go into the fact sheet, and I just want to show you the financial modeling. So you can go read all about it. You can see absolutely everything. But you can see here that you've got the financial summaries. So you can literally go in and look if you're wanting to go more into the detail. So everything's here in terms of the breakdown of the numbers, the pro forma, how it works. Literally amortized. So for those that want the detail is all there. For people like me that don't like to go into all of that detail, then you can go to the platform and you can see the net return. So I just want to check, Michael, if you could just let me know if I answered your question or not. That hopefully I did. The second question people ask me is, they say to me, well, Scott, is my money protected? And that's a very important question to ask. And so there's a couple of things that we've done to try and put in place to help our investors and to make sure the money is protected. The first is that we are FCA registered. So we're a juristic rep under the FCA, which is the regulator out of England, one of the top regulators in the world. It's a defined financial product. We work with Lemonway, which is the biggest digital wallet provider in Europe. So again, your money's protected by European regulation. They've got 8 million wallets. There's phase protection. There's European cash custody. It's got multi-layered compliance. There's a transactional wallet, which means the money is separate from us. We never touch your money. And then there's data protection and investor ring fencing. So again, this is really important. The team that built our platform actually built a platform out of New York, America, that did $13 trillion a year. So data protection and investor protection and making sure that the system is safe is very, very important. And then the question is, how do we kind of protect and safeguard the money? Well, the first is external cash custody. So what that means is that we don't touch your money. Your money goes directly into your own personal digital wallet in Europe. And then from the digital wallet in Europe, it goes directly into the deal. Secondly, there's discretionary portfolio manager governance. So what that means is that there's a third-party person that's actually looking after the investments, so that, again, if I was to disappear tomorrow morning, if the company was to disappear tomorrow morning, your investments are still safe in the investment. You've got designated investor accounts. So that means that each one of you has your own investor account. So again, your funds are not being pooled. The deals are also ring-fenced. So in a typical property fund or REIT, the investments are kind of all on top of each other. And if you've got a good deal and a bad deal, it's very hard to kind of break them apart. Whereas each deal is a specific deal, and therefore you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You've got designated corporate members. So again, each structure is set up with its own designated corporate members. There's external custody of investments. So there's a gentleman out of England called Michael Carrick that actually oversees and facilitates the investments. And finally, there's operational and investor segregation. And that becomes really, really important for people just to understand the depths and lengths that we've gone to ensure that the investor's money is protected. I wanted to kind of just give you an overview. I've just got back from America and I was going and looking at our different deals. So I don't know, Derek, if you've even seen this before. I think you might have seen one of the recordings. But I mean, this is two of our industrial buildings that we've got in America. And you can kind of see here, this is September, August, July, June. And you can see that each month, these two buildings are paying us about $4,000 a month. And it just sort of comes through every single month. We don't have to worry about broken toilets. We don't have to go and fix roofs or management or maintenance because our partners on the ground are the ones that are doing it. So that's two of our industrial buildings. This here is a multi-family in Oklahoma. Again, this one pays quarterly, but you can see that every quarter we're getting about nearly $6,500 through in terms of that opportunity. This one here is a medical office opportunity. It was actually where we buy buildings at a low price and then we sell them. But we had a quarterly distribution here. We've got another one coming up in Q4, and there's another one coming up in Q1. And this is an office building that we actually bought in the heart of COVID when there were some really good deals in COVID. And again, you can see here, just the different investments and kind of when kind of investments are being made, and just sort of the payments, out in terms of, what is happening kind of every quarter just with the payment. So it just gives people an idea of kind of how's my money protected up front, and then how does it work, and then just looking at the different types of deals and the distributions kind of coming out quarterly in terms of that process. So I hope that kind of helps in terms of just giving people a bit of peace of mind around the different opportunities. And the last thing that I wanted to share with people, Derek, which I would recommend, is also just explaining, you've spoken a little bit about the Mastermind. One of the things that was really important for me at the Mastermind level is I've been doing this, I've been investing for 28 years and I've been helping people for 20 plus years. But when we started the Mastermind, what we realized was there's a real need for a family office. There was a real need for someone to come in and help when it comes to tax and structuring. And how do I make sure that, I've got assets here in South Africa. How do I make sure that I'm optimizing my current assets and getting, not only protecting my current wealth, but getting, making sure those assets are working for, getting the best results. And so with your permission, Derek, what I'd like to share with people is the short video that I did with Garth Wellman around what is a family office and how he can help people. And I'd strongly recommend that people pay attention to what he's sharing, because if you've kind of got your traditional financial advisor, this is not that. This is something different. It's traditionally only available to the top 1%, so the wealthiest of the wealthy. And with our Mastermind, we've effectively democratized access to a family office. And I want to share a quick video with you on what that actually means. And I just ask you the question, if you would like to have this gentleman and this company helping you, and then, to be honest, Derek, you and I can talk what it's meant to you and I at an individual level.
Yeah.
Garth, I first met you 2012, 2013. You were helping one of the wealthiest clients that I'd ever met and helped invested. And I was fascinated by what you do. In fact, I'd never even heard of a family office until I met you. And I bet you that most of the people have never even heard of a family office either. So can we just start with, what is a family office? And in your case, a multi-family office. What is it like?
Yeah, hi, Scott. Yeah, great to have worked with you over the years. Yeah, I was actually one of the first people to coin the phrase multi-family office. A family office is typically a full financial management of a high net worth individual's affairs. Typically, a wealthy person would set up a family office to administer everything in-house. You would bring in, legal attorneys, private equity, and construct a full suite of investment services, from offshore structuring to offshore legal advice. So we set up a family office to be an outsourced full financial services provider outside of the scope of just investment management. And that's what we brought to the table. And we realized that we wouldn't do that for a single family. And that was where we said we became a multi-family office. Our services were well outside of the scope of what a financial planner would do.
Well, talk to us a little bit about that, because most people, including me, only really understand a financial planner or / an investment bank. Maybe you've been invited to the private banking of investment banking, etc. What is the difference? And I'd love to ask you a question. I also want to give context from what I've experienced with all of our clients. But what is the difference from what people are used to what they get when they come through the family office?
Oh, look, a financial planner is one service of probably 15 or 20 that a family office does. A financial planner effectively looks at a person's wealth preservation or their wealth creation. He goes, how do I create more wealth if a person hasn't yet got sufficient wealth? And he goes to the typical listed market space. And if he works for an institution, he goes to his employer's institution and offers their products as a solution to create wealth. The more sophisticated financial planner is the one that's working with the high net worth and saying, well, here's how we can preserve wealth. And that preservation of wealth then comes in the form again of the same financial products, sometimes slightly more sophisticated, a little bit more on the offshore side. He's not often involved in the actual legal structuring, and that is just outsourced by the bank to alternative companies. So very little of what a sophisticated financial planner does really goes into him being involved in the taxation, the immigration, the international tax planning, international business, corporate advisory, resolving tax issues, staying current. So I think a financial advisor is largely connected to creating wealth and using listed investments, and protecting wealth using listed investments, which is just one very small part of what a family office really does and is capable of doing with in-house services.
But just the kind of the context I get from a bunch of people is, firstly, they were used to having lots of things all over the place. In fact, quite a lot of chaos and hassle. And the beauty that they love is that they can bring it all under one roof and actually have everything looked at. So whether they own a house in England or a house in America, for the first time ever, actually consolidate everything and have a sort of one plan, not this disparate plan all over the place with multiple advisors. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I found really interesting, and Derek, who's actually a farmer, came up to meet with the team face to face, and his words were phenomenal. And I always laugh at that, because why he said phenomenal, he said, I spent my whole life trying to find someone that I could, literally go to with financial advice, but with a holistic approach, not just stick me in the box. I'm just like, this is a product that everyone else is selling. And actually someone that could sit and understand me, my family, my needs, my wants, and ultimately come up with a bespoke solution. I mean, they're just two examples of many, many people that you've helped. But I like to sort of give people a little bit of context of why it's different. Just because we're used to a box of chocolates doesn't mean that there's actually not a much better solution out there in terms of it. So it sort of brings me on to the last question that I would have for you. What I wanted to understand from you was the feedback I get from a lot of people when they meet with you, they meet with Anthony, they come along to the mastermind, they learn and listen, and they go, but it sounds too good to be true. If you're working with some of the wealthiest families, around the world, why would you work with me? What's the reason for that? Why are you even here, helping me on this presentation?
Yeah, Scott, I've said it before. You can build scalable businesses, and, I'm both a financial person and an entrepreneur. But what I started picking up is, I don't think good advice should be the domain of just the super wealthy. Okay. And one of the greatest problems the world faces is wealth disparity. Where 99% of the wealth is held in 1% of the world's population hands. And we know that's one of the biggest problems that has to change. But the same with advice. The wealthier the higher the quality of the advice, the more access you have to deals, the more access you have to create more wealth. So, in our universe, we want to create opportunities for a much broader, much more scalable, suite of wealth and investors, for example. So I really want to see people that are hungry to learn, to create wealth, and to generate economies, like in a country like South Africa, where economics and business and wealth creation is so important right now. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if we can teach the secrets of that 1% to 25, 30% more people, we create a much more sustainable world and a much more sustainable economy. So yeah, I think that's where where you and I have worked really well together, is to create scalable but high-end information being accessible to other people rather than just the 1%. Yeah. And also, with the 65 clients we have, 70 clients, it grows all the time, I haven't counted, families that we have, so much opportunity exists within that for us to spread that opportunity and create a real symbiotic environment for wealth creation and transfer of knowledge.
One of the things that I appreciate most is when I find, people that join the mastermind, they seem to have it all. They seem to know everything already. And then they come and meet you and they just have their minds blown of like what's possible. So I deeply appreciate the partnership. I deeply appreciate what you just said in terms of people getting access to it. And I look forward to others learning about what a family office is and more importantly, how it can impact in their lives. So just a huge amount of gratitude to you and your team. Thank you for sharing it with others.
Oh, wonderful, Scott. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's been a great journey, and it's always so rewarding to hear compliments from your clients. And yeah, long may we continue to, teach and grow people.
So I think, Derek, I mean, you were the one who I actually talked about in that video that sort of said it was, phenomenal to meet face to face, etc. What's been your experience, and not just yours, because you've heard from a number of the other Mastermind members, to kind of have that partner, because a lot of people feel quite isolated when it comes to investing. Yeah, sure, they go meet with their financial advisor, etc. But often those financial advisors are very kind of set on their ways in terms of this country and what you can do. And if you invest offshore, there's only these few options, etc. What was your experience in kind of going through that?
Scott, so again, just a bit of perspective. So from where I serve at Grain SA, I've been nominated and I've been a trustee on the Maize Trust for a number of years now. Now, the Maize Trust, we have invested in an investment portfolio of 1.1 billion rand. And the six of us are sitting and we're making decisions, and we're experiencing the growth, we're experiencing the results of the investment strategies. We have access to the likes of the Alan Greys and the 91s and all these. And I was sitting thinking, well, how do I get a piece of that pie? How do I get access to Alan Gray and everything? And I actually asked the question one day, and they said, well, the entry level is like 250 million or something silly like that, So they just don't. It's not accessible to you, even though you might have the exposure, you might want to do it, but it's just not accessible to you because that's the level at which they start operating. And then I got to learn about the family office, Calio, and as part of the Mastermind, this is one of the first things that you said, well, we need to sit with Calio. We'll set up a meeting with Calio, and then they will take your business. They will, you put everything on the table. They will do an analysis of this, and then they'll advise you on a structure and whatever you. Now, just if we wind back 2 years, we were either still in or just out of COVID. So it was all online, and it was really simple. Set up an online meeting with Garth and the team, and they take it. And Garth, my accountants had sent him all my documents, and they looked at my business. And Garth says to me, "Well, what's the deal with the farm?" So I said, "No, well, it's fourth generation farm." So okay, then he says, "Okay, well, the farm's going nowhere. How's the farm held?" "No, the farm's held in trust." "Okay, we'll just shift that trust offshore." And that scared the living daylights out of me. I mean, I've never met the man. I don't know. And it was like really scary. And then I had an opportunity to actually go up and it was by accident, really. I got involved again from an agricultural point of view in a fund that Calio was involved in. And from an agri perspective, they invited me on the board, and I was there early, and I got to meet with Anthony. And suddenly, having this one-to-one conversation in his office, we found each other. I kind of found what I've been looking for years. A bridge between the gap of what I experienced at the Maize Trust and how I can actually make it work. And Anthony took my and Karen, my wife's business. He took everything. He said, "Okay, send me everything that you've got." He unpacked it, and he said, "Well, this is how like he teaches us all the time. It says asset allocation is 80% of the success." And he said, "Derek, you should do, and he just gives you the confidence." So suddenly I had access to I think the word is bespoke, investment and financial wealth of knowledge that are simply in other, in a different world, I simply wouldn't have had access to. So that is a relationship, and Wealth Migrate in this platform has actually given me access and gives people at my level and or at our level access to something that is actually the privilege of the super wealth. And that's phenomenal. That really is phenomenal.
Well, I mean, my passion and purpose is to help everybody invest like the top 1%. And how do we do it? We do it by democratizing, using technology. Even as Derek says, when I met Garth in 2012, 2013, that guy with their little notebook, they'd meet Derek. And if you had enough money, they would come out to your farm and whatever. And I sat with him and I said, well, it's great what you're doing, but why couldn't we hold one online meeting and have all of us there? And, just my point is I love technology. So it's always like, how can we take what you're doing and democratize it, and give people the same access to the same information and the same partners in terms of that process. Derek, I'm conscious of the time, so I kind of wanted to pivot to two things which I think are important to people. So the first one is this, which is what we basically call the investor diversification strategy sheet. So I just want to share it with people. And in simple terms, what becomes important is that we always take people through this. So firstly, why do you want to invest overseas? What are the top 5 countries you want to invest in? What are the top 5 currencies? Ray Dalio, I've already told you, literally manages $160 billion and over 40 years has achieved a return of 21% a year on average. And, he says you need 15 quality assets. Well, then the question is, what are those assets? How do you find the right partners and avoid 80% of the mistakes others make? How do you build a wealth plan over time? And then finally, a bonus module of how to actually use technology. And so if that's something of interest to you, there's 2 opportunities. One is we've actually got an online challenge. So that's actually how I met Derek. And where we take you through, so it starts next Monday. We run it for 5 days. It's online. And again, I'll share the links with Derek and you can kind of go and read all about it. But in simple terms, day 1 is understanding diversification. Day 2 is the types of investments, so asset classes and risk, things like the stocks, bonds, real estate, property, etc. Day 3 is all about the family office. So this is all about asset allocation. How do you build your portfolio and set yourself up for success? Day 4 is all about risk management. How do you protect your capital? How do you find the right partners, etc.? And then day 5 is all about putting it into practice. So you've got an opportunity. It's 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and you can literally go through and walk away with a fully executed wealth plan with that filled in. Then some people say, well, I don't want to do it online. I want to come and meet you face to face. So Derek's actually very kindly organized for us to be in the Grain Building on the 8th and 9th of November. And you can literally come along and join us. It's the exact same format. The difference is that the 5 modules will cover modules 1, 2, and 3 on the Friday, and we'll cover modules 4 and 5 on the Saturday in terms of that process. So you can literally click on the links below. I'll share them with Derek as well. If you're watching the recording, you can click on the links below. I'll share them. If you're live here, I'll share them with Derek, and he can share them with those that are live. And if you're interested and you want to go, into more detail, we can share with you. I always say to people, there's 2 things we do, and it's literally what I've done since I started the business in 2004 in London. 1 is we provide people with information and education, and 2 is we provide them with an investment platform. Our logic is that if you've got all the information but nowhere to invest, then it's a waste of time. If you've only got the investment platform, but you're not quite sure what to do and you don't have the information and education, then it's also a waste of time. So you need both of them so that you can make educated, informed decisions and you've got the investment platform to invest. And then finally, in the last 2 years, we created the Mastermind that effectively brings the 2 together because it allows for a like-minded group of people to work together to get the information to invest and to kind of come on a journey. So I know it's a simple metaphor of just explaining it, but for me, what's really important is for people to get the information and equally, to have the ability to invest. So Derek, I'm really grateful that you've shared this with your colleagues. I'm super excited about the collaboration we're putting together with Farmers Wealth Solutions. And, for me, why this is important is that Derek's a farmer. He understands what other farmers have gone through. He understands the challenges of, working the different seasons and the weather and everything. And I'm not going to try and sound like a farmer, although just by the way, in another life, I could have easily been a farmer because my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents were farmers in Zimbabwe. So if we weren't kicked off our land, I could be sitting here on the other side of this fence, actually learning from you. But because I was kicked off my land, I learned about diversification from a very young age. My father indoctrinated in me from a very young age that, we don't keep all our assets in Africa. I'm not going into all of those details unless people want to know. But the point is I'm very passionate about diversification. So, Derek, I deeply appreciate you wanting to share it with others. Obviously, in 1 hour, it's impossible to necessarily go through everything. But what we wanted to do is just give people a taste that maybe there's another alternative to what they've been used to. And maybe they can kind of do their passion in terms of the agricultural space, but they can diversify and have the peace of mind to know, A, that they've got a plan, and B, that their money is working for them around the world while they sleep. So I really thank you for your time, Derek. And is there anything else, Derek, that I can help with, or any questions that I haven't answered, or anything that you think would be relevant for others in terms of this evening?
Scott, no, what I just thought I would like to share is really the value of the Mastermind. I signed up for the Mastermind. It wasn't an easy thing to decide. To make the investment. I made that investment in myself, and it's really I struggled to find the words to explain the value that it has actually unlocked for me. That part of education. It's one thing just giving people the knowledge and the information, but when you're doing it in a group of people, when you're doing it together and you're sharing that experience, you're sharing that journey, it kind of enhances it to a completely different level. And while it's difficult to understand what the value out of that investment is, once you traveled that journey, then you just it just unlocks a completely different world. And I would recommend that people not only just sign up to the platform and start investing, but actually go on that journey and get to take ownership of your understanding of your investment plan, of your diversified passive income plan. It's just it makes it so much more valuable and so much better tool in your business. Thanks, Scott.
Awesome. No, well, thank you, Derek, and thank you to all of us that have joined us. As always, we're always looking to add value. So thank you for your time. It's your most valuable asset. If you've got comments or questions, reach out to Derek. We'll be happy to help. And most importantly, I hope to meet you in person one day, and I look forward to you getting your results. I'm passionate about results. That's all I really care about. At the end of the day is kind of removing the excuses. And as you say, Derek, just get it done. And I love that. And for me, it's about getting results. So I look forward to seeing people's results. There's nothing that that pleases me more than when people come to me and they say, hey, 10 years ago, I set myself as this task and I've now achieved it. And we've got thousands and thousands of people that have done that. And if they can do that, then you too can do it. So I look forward to those results. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Thanks, Scott. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Cheers, everyone.